I think it was the USA Championships or the Nationals. I don't remember what show it was from. Where Matt Duvall was there, Eric Fromm was there. There was, I think, Mike Horn was there. All these guys, and I actually went. I actually beat all those guys in that show. Interestingly enough, but they're all dead.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Ron Harris recently put out a couple of videos titled Mass Monsters, and you're featured in the second one. My question is, and you do get a lot of questions about your life as a mass monster, the good, the bad, about being that big. And then finally, do you miss it?
You know, I saw the, Ron sent it to me, he sent me a link to it. And so I watched it. Thank you, Ron, for mentioning it. But I was a little horrified when I think he showed like I think it was the USA Championships or the Nationals. I don't remember what show it was from where Matt Duvall was there, Eric Fromm was there. There was, I think, Mike Horn was there. All these guys, and I actually I actually beat all those guys in that show. Interestingly enough, but they're all dead. And it was like, I think it was only me and one other person was still alive in the whole lineup. And I was like, holy mackerel, that's kind of scary. But it's true, and it, I don't know if it has anything to do with how big we were or how big they continued to be. It's scary to see that. Do I miss it? No, because I reveled in it when I was there. In other words, I didn't leave anything on the table. I didn't, and I've had this conversation with a lot of other bodybuilders too. I said, I don't ever say to myself, man, I wonder if I can go back and compete again, or if I, because I know I can never be as big, but maybe I could be good enough to whatever, get a pro card at Masters National. But I'm always saying yeah, but I'll never be as good as I was. And I really got to a point where I was very happy with how big I got and how I did look. So I kind of got it out of my system. I'm one of these guys that once I accomplish something that I put my mind to, I'm good with moving on to the next thing that I want to do. Whereas some people never can let go of that one thing because maybe that's the one thing that that's the only thing they're really interested in doing. So now I don't really miss it. I do sometimes, fantasize when I'm in the gym and I've put a little muscle on obviously the last, 6 months or so since I've been able to start training, consistently. And it's intoxicating without a doubt when you see your body changing and stuff like that for the positive. But I feel really good at this weight. I can maybe see myself fluctuating another 5 to 7 pounds, maybe up or down. And this is good for me. And I'm pretty happy with the way I look, at 60. I'm already making myself look at 56 years old. So I think that I'm good. Now, I know some guys still want to and I talk to guys in the gym. They're like, why don't you try to get to be 260 again? I'm like, well, I don't really want to die. I have this fear. If I didn't have a fear of dying and, maybe if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't be so worried. Maybe I'd push the envelope a little more, but there's no reason to. There's nothing to prove to anyone at this point. So I'd rather just be the guy that guy looks really good for his age. He doesn't look his age or something like that. So that's where I'm at. Other people are in different places, but you can't, neglect the data, which is the guys that tend to stay very big for very long periods of time into their 50s and 60s tend to have a much greater chance of death. So that's a good motivator for me not to be that big here.
If I want to cut, what happens if when calculating the macros I need based on my body metrics, it tells me to eat calories that are actually higher than where I'm at now? I think I may need to reset my BMR due to probably under eating for a long period of time. I'm wondering if in order to cut, I will actually need to increase calories for a while and then start the process, because cutting from where I am now might mean going down to just an unreasonably low level of calories that is just not sustainable. He says I am 100. Okay, so 100% natural.
And read the first line again, the first like 20 words.
Right. So if I want to cut, what happens if when calculating the macros, I need
that's it. Stop right there. Stop right there. Calculating the macros. Like, I don't know what he's basing his calculations on, and he mentions calories. And when I hear the word calories, I start to cringe, like, ooh. I think that the word macros was the correct word. I think the word calories was the incorrect word. And I think people get too caught up in how many calories they're eating, and they think that there's a magic number. But the problem is macros don't equal calories. And, maybe I should explain that for people who don't really know the definition of both terms. Macros is how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fat, how many grams of protein I'm eating. That's always a better way to determine what you need to achieve the results you want, whether you want to put muscle on or you want to lose body fat, right? Because if you want to lose body fat, your macros will protein always stays pretty much the same. Fat might decrease a little bit, and then carbs go down, way down, because whether you go zero carbs or you just go low carbs, you have to remove some macro, right? And the only macro that's expendable in the sense that you don't need it is carbs. So, everyone lowers carbs, even if you don't go no carbs, right? You don't have to do my ketogenic diet to understand that if you're going to, lose some weight and lose some body fat, I should say, but maintain muscle, you're going to more than likely lower mostly carbs. Now you're going to lower some protein and some fat too, because you might be eating, 8 or 9 times a day for all I know in your off season. Okay. When you're trying to grow, what are you trying to do? You're trying to increase mass. So you need more of the raw materials that build muscle. What do you need? You need more protein, you need more fat, and then you need more energy to make sure that you're fully fueled, because you don't want to use any of the fat and protein that is needed for building muscle for energy. So you give yourself enough carbs, right? So that you can do that. So when you're designing a diet, you're not going to really, change too much of the protein and fat, not initially at least. You're going to lower carbs first and then see how you start losing. And that's how you play with things. I think the problem is that people start figuring out how many calories in their diet, and they're like, oh, that's not enough, I need to eat more. Well, why? If you have the right macros around to support your body, if you're a 200-pound guy and you're eating 250 grams of protein, you're having 75 to 100 grams of fat, that's going to eat more than support muscle, gain muscle mass on your body. Then you just have to figure out how many grams of carbs do I need if you're going to do a carbohydrate-based diet to sustain you with enough energy to get through the day, but also be in a deficit so that your body's digging into stored body fat to pull energy. And I think, once again, I just see too many people using these calculators, these apps, and they look good there, but they're just they're basically mathematical formulas. And unfortunately, we're not robots. If we were robots, then a math formula would be perfect, because we would be able to figure out exactly what we need. We're not, though. We're not robots. And so our bodies respond differently, all of our bodies. And so that's why it's good to have a coach who will give you a basic template to start with and then modify it from there according to how your body responds. And that's really the best answer I can give you. To get all panicky about whatever your calculator tells you is your caloric requirement for the day is really probably not an accurate assessment. And I think that's your frustration and what you're figuring right here when you're asking this question.